Well, hello, welcome to another Cook With Me gluten-free. I'm Robin. Thank you so much for joining. If this is your first time here, I make things that are gluten-free and I try things that are gluten-free, and then I give you my honest opinion. If that sounds like something you're interested in, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Now, today we're going to do something a little different. I've had my channel for a little over a year, I think, and I have never done a question and answer. But I get so many questions on my nut milk videos. I feel like I need to answer some questions. So I have a list that I compiled right here of my top 10 questions. So hopefully this will answer some of those commonly asked questions, and you can refer back to this video if you are making some nut milk on your own. So I brought out some of my equipment and some of the things that I use so we can use those as reference. And then we'll get started with question number 1. Okay, let's kick things off with question number 1, which is a compound question. Can I use a blender instead of a nut milk maker? And why do you use a nut milk maker? Well, the short answer is, of course, yes, you can use a blender. A quality blender would be best, so you can really get the nuts or oats or whatever kind of nut milk you're making or oat milk. You can really get it nice and pulverized. Why do I use a nut milk maker? That is simple, because it takes the guesswork out of it for me, right? So each nut milk maker comes with a manual, and inside this manual, it tells you how much water I need, the quantity of nuts that I need, whether it's cashew milk or almond milk. It's all right here. So it takes the guesswork out. That part, but more importantly, it's the actual machine itself. So if you look at the front, it's all of these things that it makes, and each one of these has a different time, a different temperature. So I push the button and it literally does the rest. Also, I'm not sure that this matters because I'm certainly not somebody who developed the nut milk maker machine, but I notice in my blender, the blender blades are higher, longer. These are very small. I'm not sure that you're going to be able to see, but do you see how small and flat those are? I wonder if that has something to do with it as well. So in addition to making nut milk or oat milk, I can make soy milk, milkshakes, I can boil water, I can make rice paste and juice. Also, this has a cleaning mode, which I use each and every time. And mine is so clean. So as soon as I finish, I rinse it out really good. And then I put it on the cleaning mode. Guesswork, cleaning, done, done, and done. So that's why I use this, because it's got all the modes. And if I were to use my blender, I wouldn't even know where to start, because I don't know how blended the nuts need to be. It's not something that I watch because, as you can see, this is a completely closed container. So it does it for me. Okay, let's move on to question number 2. What kind of nuts should I use? That's always a good question. So I am like down to the bare bones, but I'm going to show you these. These are the type of almonds that I use. These are from Trader Joe's, but you can buy raw almonds anywhere. Always get raw almonds, whatever kind of milk you're making, and realize you could make walnut milk. Not sure what it would turn out like. I'm not a walnut fan, but cashews, just make sure they're raw. You don't want to use something that has been processed, right? Something that's already been roasted, dry roasted, anything like that would be a big no-no. So stick with these raw nuts. And obviously, I'm out of cashew. I'm an almond cashew oat milk person. Anything else, I've not tried. But I do know that raw nuts do need to be used. Okay, question number 3. Do I have to soak the nuts first? So it's always best to soak them first. I soak mine overnight because that way, right before I go to bed, I get a bowl, I drop them in, I cover them with saran wrap, and they just sit there. So I know that they're ready when I need them. But if you are pressed for time, one of my videos, I did blanch the nuts. So just a little pot of boiling water, put them in for a little bit, and then take them off the stove. I don't think that makes the creamiest milk. Soaking definitely makes a creamier batch of milk. But if you just need milk and you want it to be good, that definitely works. Okay, question 4. What's the easiest nut milk to make for beginners? In my opinion, cashew milk or almond milk. Hands down, the easiest. And that's because I feel like it blends easy and it usually gives you a nice creamy batch of milk if you are using the right nuts and you've done the appropriate soaking or blanching. How long does nut milk last, homemade nut milk last in the refrigerator? And what can I store it in? So typically, I think if you ran to ChatGPT, it would probably tell you like 3 to 5 days. I have used it up to 7 days, but I'm also really good about my storing process. So I always use like a canning jar. This is a Ball brand jar. It doesn't have to be that brand. You can use a Walmart brand, Target brand. But what's most important to me is that it has the airtight seal. And I think that's why I've been able to get 6 or 7 days out of a batch of milk as long as I put it away right away. Like as soon as I make it, I pour it in the jar. And this is about how much I get out of every batch with this nut milk maker. So let's move on to the next question. So that was good. Why does homemade nut milk separate? Well, that's because those particles are heavy. So when you blend it, you're left with those particles. And some people, they don't feel like they need to strain their nut milk, but it's just a normal part of the process. And that's what lets you know that you're getting the good stuff. And so straining, that can be done a bunch of different ways. I believe even in one of my videos, I used a metal strainer. Does not work as good, but does it still deliver a good batch of milk? Yes. In a pinch, do I use it every now and again? Yes. But I typically default to a nut milk bag, right? And this is basically, the name is escaping me. Oh my goodness. Anyway, these nut milk bags, once you get it in there, you watch any of my videos, squeeze it really good. One thing I do use, and this is directly from Walmart, but this Sterilite pitcher and the nut milk bags that I use to make the straining process easier, it fits right down inside and it's almost the perfect width to go around this. And then once it's perfectly centered on here and you pull this, it tightens up right away. And then you squeeze it and it goes right into the pitcher. Pour it right into the jar and it makes it super, super simple. I'm not saying that you need this at all because you don't need it. You definitely don't. But it sure does make my life easier and it keeps everything nice and tight and easy to pour. Okay, did I answer that question? Why does it separate? And then I talked about the straining. This is a very recent question. Somebody said they made oat milk and it was slimy. Okay, so oats are just slimy. If you've eaten oatmeal, then you just know that it's slimy. But when I make oat milk, it's not overly slimy. You should not be able to taste that slimy texture in your mouth. Ew, that doesn't even sound pleasant. One of the reasons is it could be your oats are over blended. They were blended at too high of a temperature. Again, why it's important to know the settings. The temperature for each thing that you're making is already preset in a nut milk maker. Also, it could be the type of nuts, I keep saying nuts, the oats, the type of oats that you're using. If you are using quick oats, I know people have accidentally purchased quick oats and tried to make oat milk. I mean, that is what we call an absolute slime fest, okay? Because those kinds of oats are built to break down quickly. That's not what we need when we're making oat milk. I like the Bob's Red Mill old-fashioned rolled oats, okay? Of course, they're gluten-free. I make sure of that. But these work great for me. And obviously, I need to go shopping for these as well. But this makes the perfect batch of oat milk. But any old-fashioned rolled oats, just make sure, please make sure they're not quick oats. And then you should be able to avoid the sliminess. Okay. Question number 8. We're almost through to our top 10 questions. What is the best way to sweeten nut milk? Now, I like to use large dates. Anywhere from 2 to 4 dates usually works for me. But I also recently used agave, and I've used it a few times. I like the way the agave sweetens the milk. So it's really up to you. I've never tried stevia or any packets like Splenda or Whole Earth. I've never tried them, but I think that they would work well as long as they go into the mix. One thing I always add though is a little pinch of salt and a little bit of vanilla extract. Question number 9. What can I do with the leftover nut pulp? Well, that's a good question too. There are a lot of things you can do. You can save that and put it in a smoothie, for some extra protein. You can use it in baked items. There are actual recipes. If you Google, nut milk pulp recipes, you can make crackers, you can put it in muffins, just all kinds of little things that you can do to not waste it. I'll be honest, I've used it a couple of times, but most of the time I just put it in a bag and chuck it. So that might be wasteful, but if I don't have anything that I'm making right away, I can't see a reason why I would store it in the fridge or anything like that. Okay, and question number 10. Which nut milk maker is best for convenience and easy cleanup, and would I buy it? So I did some research, and I feel like the Nama, I think it's pronounced Nama, or is it Nama? I think it's Nama. The Nama M1 plant milk maker. That one seems like it kind of has it all, right? It's got the convenience of all the settings like the one that I have, but there's no cleanup. It actually holds on to your pulp kind of like a juicer, and you don't have to do this whole straining process, right? The machine actually does it for you, which has to be nice, right? But it retails at $449. So, would I buy it? I probably would love to have it as a gift, because if it works as well as I think it does, I think it would be a great investment. Would I buy it now? Probably not, because I don't mind the process. I don't mind using this and straining it, because I've gotten the process down so good that it takes me no time to make it. The longest that it takes is really the soaking part, because it soaks overnight. And my almond setting is 8 minutes. So I wait 8 minutes for a batch of milk. The rest of it, it's just a couple of minutes, because I feel like I've perfected that process. So I think the good question is, would I use it? Yes, I would use it. If I had one, I would use it. And if I thought that it was going to save me a lot of time, I would just need to find the value in the $449. So is that me answering the question? I hope so. All right. So That was our top 10 nut milk maker questions. If you have any other questions, please feel free to comment below. I will also tag all of my items that I used today so that you know exactly what to use if you are looking for a nut milk maker, or you have one and you haven't tried it yet, or you haven't gotten a good batch yet. Maybe some of these items will make it even better. So, thank you so much for joining me on another Cook With Me gluten-free. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you next time. Bye.